Trails always disappear within a minute, my entire life, and then suddenly the late 90s they began to just hang there, expand, grow. So is the government blocking out the evil radiation from the sun, or are they engaging in mass inoculations? You know, all these things have been said. Are they poisoning us? Well, we know in the past they have killed American citizens on purpose with admitted biological testing. And then we have all the admissions of low-altitude spraying. Clifford Carnicom, walk through the 7 different areas of your research and what you know, what you've tested, break it down for us, sir.
Thanks, Alex. This list was 5 up to about a year ago, and there's been 2 added that I haven't really written up, but I've added them to the list. They are, first one would be environmental modification and control, actually modifying our world in terms of its environment and weather. This would be the simplest and the easiest probably to understand and demonstrate. The second would be the conduct of biological operations. Using particulates as a transport medium for biological materials. The third would be the application and use of electromagnetic operations, the transmission and propagation and manipulation of energy, electromagnetic energy, within a modified atmospheric environment. Let's see, the easiest analogy there would be the ionosphere. Think of the conditions of the ionosphere at altitude, which
some type of conductivity for HAARP or something.
Yeah, that's right. That medium. Think of that medium of the ionosphere being brought to a lower level around the Earth, basically. We can talk about each of these in more detail. The fourth would be military operations. At the thesis and patent of the HAARP facility, it fits like a glove.
You know, just speaking on your opinion, what do you think they're doing? Why? Well, number one, what is this doing to the atmosphere? What changes have we seen that can then point us towards what their goals may be?
Okay. The actual materials that are being identified over and over and over are what you would call ionizing salts. The best explanation for what can physically transform the atmosphere in the way that they have is through the introduction of ionizable metallic salts. Now, what does that mean? And also of an extremely small size, down at the submicron level.
Isn't that similar to the nuclei they use to weather control?
You mean for cloud seeding? And
yes, yes.
Well, I would suspect, if we looked into the cloud seeding, and I could be mistaken, but I suspect the particles that we're dealing with would be a magnitude. Those are crystals they're talking about, in a conventional sense. The size of these is so incredibly small. Submicron, human hair is 60 to 100 microns. Bacteria are on the order of 10 microns. What I'm speaking of is on the order of a submicron, most likely. So the size of what you're talking about is truly a unique, let's say represents a truly unique opportunity for physical change in terms of how clouds form and this type of thing.
Okay, please continue.
But this business of ionization appears to be extremely important. The materials that are being found, specific ones would be calcium, magnesium, and barium. My tests have repeatedly shown these. Barium is a tremendous concern here because it is a highly toxic element in soluble form. It's quite on par with arsenic in terms of its toxicity in soluble form. And what I'm speaking of would be in soluble form because you're dealing without clouds and moisture. These particular elements, calcium, barium, and magnesium, with the special emphasis upon calcium and barium, these materials have a really unique property in that if you subject them to the energy that is available in sunlight, both visible light and ultraviolet light, particularly the ultraviolet light portion of the spectrum, basically the energy within sunlight is sufficient to cause these materials to become electrically charged. That's what ionized means. An ion is an electrically charged material. If you can ionize a material and throw electrons into a gas, namely the air, so man, we're talking about a very open door in terms of the physics of what you have created. There is a word called plasma, and many of us are familiar with a neon light tube, this type of thing. A neon light tube is filled with gas, and yet what happens? You send energy from point A to point B. You create light. That same idea is what I'm talking about here. It is quite conceivable and appears to be the end goal. It's certainly what HAARP explicitly describes, is that if you can increase the electron density in the atmosphere, you can create what is called a plasma. And a plasma is an electrically conductive gas. If you create an electrically conductive gas, it's, in my mind, it's literally an open door towards the transmission and control and manipulation of energy in that environment. And we're talking about electromagnetic energy, ELF energy, the wavelength that our bodies work upon is 0 to 100 hertz, ELF energy. Over and over and over, I have detected the presence of, it appears clearly artificial. There's no explanation that I can come for it in a natural sense at all. This is stepped intervals of 4 hertz, artificial energy at the ELF level. These are the waves that our bodies work at, our brains work at, our minds work at. So everything to me says that a grand design behind this project is to, and has been, to create a altered atmosphere that is now usable for the transmission, let's say enhanced transmission and propagation of electromagnetic energy, a component of which includes ELF energy. ELF energy can be used to store, if you pump it like a Tesla would deal with its resonance factor. If you pulse ELF energy, you can store tremendous amounts of energy at the level of a geophysical weapon. There's something called a heave weapon. If you read that HAARP report, there's something called a heave weapon. A heave weapon is where you actually lift up the magnetic field of the Earth, and it is equivalent in energy as well as apparently effect to the types of things you would see with an atomic bomb, with the advantage that you don't actually detonate anything. I mean, it's really pretty astounding.
So it's an invisible weapon where you can basically kill all the life in the entire region if you wish.